Okay, in this exercise, we're going to make an Excel sheet that is going to look just like this. And it's going to calculate force. We're going to say, hey, I got 1,500 pounds. And if I had a 1-inch diameter, it's going to calculate the area. And then it's going to calculate the required pressure to lift that. Then we're going to learn how to add these lines and so forth. So let's get started. Let's go over to Excel. And I just type Excel with an L, works best. And we'll click that. So Excel comes up. Again, I like to do formatting later. I'm going to do that share the screen thing, so I'm going to drag it over. And we can see in A1, I'm just going to type force required to lift. And then in B, even though it's looked like a type over, it won't, because if you look at the cell reference B1, I'm just going to put 1,500 and I'm going to put pounds. At this point, I'm not going to turn it yellow. I'm just going to leave it like that. If we click on A1, we can see force required to lift is in there. Then I'm just going to type 3. Cylinder diameter. Hit tab. I don't have to click. Type area. Hit tab. Hit required pressure. Don't want you to abbreviate. We're just going to make it look. Now in cell 4, we can see the value of 1. Now if you remember from a previous one, how do we change this into a decimal point? We're going to use the number flyout or Control 1, and up will come the features that allow us to say it's a number and I'd like 1 decimal place. So there, that's taken care of. And now I could do that with 1.5. As I look down here, I could go to 10. But what I can do is just say, hey, let's make this cell equal to this, A4, plus 0.5. There we go. And you see, we happen to know the answer. We go down to 22, but I'm going to click on 1.5, click, go to 22, and now I'm going to go to the fill command. Remember I said those commands disappear. You know the short key, you can use it, which is Control D, or just expand it, go over to the fill menu, and choose down. And there we go. And now I'll kind of go back to being a little bit smaller. That didn't work so good. So I'm going to let it snap and bring that in. There we go. Now area, if we remember from a previous assignment, we've got an equation here that says area is equal to force divided by pounds. So we need to put that in there. So we're going to say this is equal to, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't give us our equation. So we need to go out and look at what the calculation for area is. So if we go there, we're going to just insert a thing called a text box here, just for your purpose. You won't have to do it. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about area. Area is equal to diameter squared, I'll just do it this way, times 0.7854. You might also see it as something area is equal to diameter squared. The asterisk in is sometimes used, it's really times 0.7854. So with that in thought, I need to do that. I'm going to say, well, this is equal, that's area, to the diameter. So I can go diameter times diameter, A4 times A4, okay, times 0.7854. Now this is where it's helpful to look at your work and see if you're matching the sheet. And there you see 0.79. We're going to ignore that, but we think that's okay. And then I'm going to ask you to just fill these down. You can back up the video to see how I did that, and now we see the answers. I'm also going to just shrink back the decimal places here a little bit, and there we go. Okay. Now required, simply going to go through that and say what is the required pressure. That's where I want to use this equation. So if force is equal to pressure times area, remember we can cover one of them up. We made that little circle, or if not, ask about it, but we're going to see an equation here that pressure is equal to force divided by area. Force divided by area. So let's think about that. My force, I'm going to hit equals, start an equation, is the 1500. I'm going to divide by my area, which is in this cell, in B4. Makes sense? Hit enter. There, it calculated it. We'll take a look at what the key's showing, 1910. Again, I'll let you trim that now. But now I'm going to, so that was this one, right? You see these two cells, 1500, the blue one, being divided by the 0.79. It's not really using the 0.79, it's using the full number. So that's just kind of what it is. Now there I'm clicking off, and that's kind of dangerous. I'm adding to my formula. So it's good to know how to hit escape or click back in and fix it. Hey, remember what we did? We took the formula and we filled down. We'll go ahead and do that. And now we see, even without checking the numbers, I'm just going to get those to no decimal places. Only the first one's right. That first one is right, but these others are wrong. This is because if we look at the equation, always go to the cell above that's working. Hey, B1 divided by 4, that. Just for sake of discussion, for your viewability, I'm going to zoom this in a little bit. We can see that B1, this bold cell, is divided by this B4. But let's look down here and see what we see. It says B2. Well, there's nothing in B2. Divide by B5. B5's right, but B2 shouldn't be. We look at this equation, it's going to B3, which has the word area in it. Well, we can't do math with letters, so this is the problem. What we want is 1500 in every cell. I could do this and just say take 1500 and fill down. While that works, it doesn't become an Excel spreadsheet because now I'm going to change this to 3000 psi, and you see nothing changes. So be careful if you ever think I'm just going to put numbers in. I did want this cell here, so I'm going to put that back. And I'm going to put this back to 1500. And I'm going to take these and fill down. Now the other thing to recognize is that this happened cell after cell, so it's best not to try and fix all of them. Just fix the very first one and then fill down. The reason it's going to B1, if you look here, then to B2, is because Excel thinks that you want to do a fill down. But we want this one cell to stay the same. And that is called, in Excel, a absolute cell reference is what we need. To make a cell absolute, we simply need to put this in front of the cell. In front of the column, we'll put a $sign, B, and in front of the row, we'll put that. So it would be $B, $1. So now I'm going to change this equation, and I'm going to edit $B, $1. That makes it an absolute reference. So now when I take that and fill that down, we see all of them are working. Now when we go into this one, it's still referencing B1. When we go into this one, it's referencing B1. So you want to use those to complete this sheet. So that's the first part of calculating the sheet, and then PSI. I'll make it lowercase. PSI is just text that we fill down. The second part of this sheet is, now that I've got the right numbers, I want to apply some formatting. First of all, let me start with the easy ones. I'm going to look at these cells, and I'm going to see they're all centered except PSI. So I'm going to take these cells, click and drag over them, and I'm going to center them. Boom. Then I'm going to take the PSI. I think that's fine. Now I'm going to look, I've kind of got these a little bit too smushed. So I'm going to click over these three cells, and I'm just going to make them a little bit wider. Okay? I think that's looking okay. Now we want to do the next thing, and we want to tilt these at an angle. So I'm going to take these. Again, I can do Control 1 was the reference to go into alignment. I can go in here. There might be a tool here to be able to do it, but you know, are we going to format a cell? We're going to do text at an angle, some orientation. So there may be shortcuts to that way. I tend to just use the full menu. Sure enough, I'm under the alignment tab. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to just go to 45 degrees. I could go up and down here if I wanted a set number. And boom. Now they're aligned. Now, notice column 3 here is not as tall. I'm going to shrink those up. They're just taking up too much room. Now we have the problem, we can't see the words. So I'm going to select those same 3 cells, go into alignment, and tell it, you know, I want you to do that, but wrap the text. So if it's not viewable, bring it onto a second line. All of a sudden we can see it. At a glance, I look over to the right and I see that looks bold, so I'm going to do that. I see this force to lift required also is bold, so I'll do that. But I can't even see that force required. So I'm going to go to this, looks like the tool I want. I haven't used it, I'm going to nix. I'm just going back. Control 1. Put that to 45 degrees. Hit wrap text and go OK. Wow, that's there we go. See, it's spanning out till we get it. Ooh, I don't want to do 45 degrees. What am I thinking? What I wanted to do was simply go into the cell, go into the alignment, keep the angle at 0, but tell it to wrap the text. And you see, there just did it. Now if I play with the width, see, force required to lift. You see how it's up near the top and this at the bottom? That's this alignment. So that just aligned it. So you can play with the text position based on where it's aligned to. Okay, so that's been moved. That's 1,500, that's pounds. Now, I want to take these 4 cells and make those yellow. Boom. We did that before. Notice we lost the lines. There's no little lines there. So now I'm going to go in and use this little thing and say, give me some borders around that. Now we've got all the borders. We also need to add some solid borders here. So we're going to use the same thing. We're just going to kind of go around here. And we're going to border those. And that doesn't look the same. That looks like we only had side lines. So I'm going to do it this way and say I would like a left edge and I would like a right border. Then over this one I would like a left border. I would like a right border. Actually, we could probably save doing one, but I like to be consistent. And I'll just go there, put a right border on that. Now, I'm going to go over this large area, just here, and I'm going to use a bold black, thick box border. Boom. Now it's looking pretty much like my one over here. I didn't do anything with this wedge, it just kind of appeared. So you might have to play with that and see it. Got a little overrun here. I don't know where it is. I can look and I can just say to this cell, it's kind of tough. I might turn it off. So I might show you a quick trick to get rid of that. Here, I might just hit delete. I'll right click and say clear contents. Nope. Maybe I'll just right click and say delete that whole row. And boom, I got rid of that. Okay, so now we got a sheet that's looking pretty identical. Look at line 14 here. It said 6 was 28.27. It was 53 psi. We look at our sheet in entirety, it's looking much better. Take just a look here. Oh, it looks like I put that big box around everything. So I will just do that again, except I'll go to the very top. And it's already selected, so I can just click here. Now that's looking like that. That's looking pretty close to the same thing. You know, there's an old adage, why do we learn to color between the lines? And the rule is, if we can't control our hand when we're young, how will we control our lives when we're older? Well, I'll use the same analogy to software. If we can't get it to do exactly what we want, how are we going to get it to control the things we want? So this little bit of finesse gives you control to present information that's usable. Okay, that covers this activity. Go through it, relook at how to do an absolute, how to calculate the formulas, and you should be good to go. This is the end. Thanks.